Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to my friend Ignacio Pellicer.
Hello, Michael.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Ignacio. Okay, for those that don't know me, my name is Michael Davies. I'm a Spanish lawyer. My firm's called Davies, Abogado, Solicitors and Barristers, and we operate in Mojacar, Almeria City, and in Marbella City in the centre. I'm here with my friend Ignacio Pellicer. He is the owner of another law firm, Pellicer Heredia, and they operate all up in the Valencia region, and they have 4 or 5 offices there. Ignacio, could you just tell me where the offices are, because I'm losing track.
That's good. Yeah, Michael, yes, is Pellicer Heredia. We've got several offices that goes from Denia, Javia, Moreira, and then it goes inland, Honton, and then we go south, Alicante, on the Alicante province, Quesada. So we try to cover the Costa Blanca, Michael.
Perfect. Okay, so that's the basic introduction. I'm a lawyer with 25 years experience. Ignacio has also over 20 years experience. And we're just going to quickly run through the normal checklist of the sort of obligations and what you have to make sure is in place if you have purchased a property in Spain. What I'm trying to answer basically is the question that a lot of clients come to us and sort of say, throw their paperwork on the table and say, look, Michael, we purchased a property a year ago and we're not quite sure whether we've got everything in order or if there's anything else that we should be doing or thinking about. Okay, so the first thing is that if you have purchased a property in Spain, normally the lawyer will have handed you either the original title deeds or a copy of the title deeds when we finished. In fact, you only need the copies because all the documents are registered anyway, so even the copies would be sufficient. You need to sell in the future or anything like that. So normally, what you'd expect to have at home is at least a copy of the title deeds, a copy of all the different, the invoices, the notary, the registrar, the transfer tax, all those normal things. Typically, at the time of signing the purchase of the property, normally you would have signed Spanish wills as well. If you haven't, it's highly advisable. But normally we'd be looking at a copy of the title deed, some receipts, and a copy of Spanish wills. Then normally, in normal circumstances, the same lawyer that handled the purchase will have either himself or maybe one of his members of staff, or sometimes they outsource it. They would have set you up for electricity, water, rates, rubbish, and community of owners, if applicable. And they would have signed them all into your name, and they would have set them up by direct debit at your account. The lawyer would have also, and this is always happens, he would have always have opened up a bank account in your name unless you already had one when you went to see him the first time. So normally, if somebody comes to me and says, is my paperwork in order? That's what I want to see. I want to see they've got a copy of the title deed, the different receipts, etc., notary, registrar, and mainly the transfer tax, that's the big one. And we need to see that they've got a bank account open and that they've got all those direct debits in place. You can check yourself to see whether it's in place by just simply going through what payments are being made out of your account. And if you see electricity, water, rates, rubbish, and possibly community of owners, then that is all in good order. The only other thing would be is to make sure that your property is insured. Normally, the lawyer wouldn't do that for you, so that would be up to you after you purchase the property to choose an insurer and make sure that's in place. So, if those things are in order, that basically means that you've got everything you need after the purchase. That's what you would walk away from if we handle the purchase, or Ignacio handles the purchase, and almost any other lawyer in the area. So once you've done that, it all depends now whether you're a non-resident or a resident, what your obligations are. So now, if you are a non-resident and you're not renting out your property, your situation is very, very easy. Once a year, you have to file what's called a 210 form, in which you declare hypothetical income tax. In other words, they just take the value of your property, in fact, the catastral value, and consider that you've got to make a small income on the property if you don't declare it, which is 1.1% of the catastral value. They tax you at 24.75% of that. What are we talking about? We're talking at the end maybe of a tax that will amount to, for a normal 2-bedroom flat worth 300,000, you may be paying tax of €400 or €500 a year, and it's normally either the solicitor that handled the purchase or somebody else that you choose, either a solicitor or accountant, that will present this return for you. This return you can't set up by direct debit, okay? You have to do it once a year. Normally, for example, in our case, and Ignacio will confirm now, but normally, what we normally do is that after clients purchase, the following year we send them an email offering to do their first year's non-resident tax. Of course, you can do it with the solicitor that handled the purchase or anybody else that year you choose. I almost forgot the other document that I expect to see with your paperwork are your Spanish NIE numbers that I missed before, and you'd need for your first return. That is always included. When the solicitor sends you a budget, you'll see that that's sort of like a differentiated, and the request of NIE numbers will be in the budget, and they'll definitely have requested them, so otherwise you wouldn't have been able to sign the completion. So for the non-residents, very simple. If you didn't actually don't rent it out, have one declaration a year. If you do rent out the property, you're a non-resident, it's just a little bit more complicated, and that is that the accountant, apart from that yearly return for the hypothetical income tax, you actually every 3 months have to declare the full income, what your expenses were, and pay tax on that. And then at the end of the year, you just pay the hypothetical amount on the days that it wasn't rented out. So that basically, those are your obligations as a non-resident. Ignacio, do you want to quickly go through what the obligations are as a resident that are just a touch more involved?
Right. Thank you, Michael. It's very important for people to try to identify themselves whether they are spending more than 6 months in Spain or not. If you are spending more than 183 days in Spain, and then you've got residencia, particularly now because of the Brexit, that will need to be swapped into a TIE, and we can help you later on to discuss that. Then you are considered to be fiscal resident in Spain. When you come over to Spain, make sure you apply for residencia, and then you inform the tax office of your area. Now, important tips for you to know. If you are from January to March, you've got the 720 form in case applicable for those who were resident, and then you need to declare over 50,000 euros assets abroad, either bank accounts, shares, bonds, dividends, or property worth that at the purchase price. Then from April to June, you'll have to do your income tax return if your income is over 14,000 euros and you haven't paid any tax in Spain. There is a specific information as well for you to know if you receive interest or you receive some money from activities, etc., etc. So that the 14,000 euros is only for those who receive only pensions and nothing else. Not tax in Spain and not tax at source, because there is a double taxation treaty. And that's the two important documents you need to know. And then if you have over a certain amount of money, you will have to do on the same time that income tax return, you'll need to do the wealth tax. But that's for you, for those who I think, Michael, in Andalusia is main property, and on top of it is 700,000 euros. Is that correct?
In Andalusia, the wealth tax is you have to have more than 700,000 euro, but it's catastrophe value, not real market value, so it's lower. But the main home, the first 300,000 euro of value don't count. So you in effect have to have a property worth more than €1 million. You have to pay wealth tax. It would have to be the catastrophe value, which, as you know, is much lower than the market value. So that's the situation for wealth tax.
So that will be the three important tips of advice for residents, because a lot of people got confused with the EB and get confused, Michael, with different documents. So try to do things properly. If you're residents, you do once a year. As Michael stated, if you're non-resident, you still do once a year, except if you're renting out the property. Okay. I don't know if anything else, Michael, with regards to
Ignacio, I'm going to try and quickly say all the things in one go and just if I miss anything out, tell me. So, after you've purchased, you need to have a file that has a copy of the title deed and all the different receipts that you paid out during the purchase procedure. You need to make sure that you've got Spanish wills that are in place. If those wills were signed before 2015, I'd suggest you go back to the lawyer to see whether they need to be revised because of a directive that came out that came into force in 2015 that made it made it necessary to redo some of the wills that were done before then in some circumstances. So the title deed, the receipts, the Spanish wills. You also need to make sure that you're seeing the different bills going through your bank account, and you should be seeing electricity, water, rates, rubbish, and in some cases, commutative owners. The rates is the one that shows up on your receipt, on your statements as EB. Okay. Now, in addition to those things, once a year, if you're a non-resident and are not renting out your property, you have to hire someone to file the 210 form. That's the non-resident hypothetical income tax return. If you're non-resident to rent it out, there are other forms that you have to present every 3 months. The same person would normally do them. If you are a tax resident, then things are slightly different. Then once a year, if you receive more than a certain income, you have to make an income tax declaration. In addition, before the end of March each year, you have to file a 720 form, Declaration of Assets Abroad, if you've got more than €50,000 in one of 3 categories outside the country. And am I leaving anything else out, Ignacio?
The wealth tax that you just mentioned before.
And the wealth tax, but you'll need to, this is regardless of whether you're non-resident or resident, in both cases, but you'd have to speak to your lawyer about this because in each region of Spain, the threshold is different. In Andalusia, it's 700,000, but the real estate only counts at catastral value, and the first €300,000 of your main home do not count for the €700,000.
Michael, you couldn't even say any better, so it's excellent.
Okay, so, and then the last thing I was going to say then is, in addition to the wills, the other thing that we recommend, basically only you if sort of an older age, let's say it's in 70, 80, another good idea sometimes is if it's a married couple to issue reciprocal powers of attorney between you. And I'll leave a link to another article that we did just on this subject, and that's a good idea. Do you do powers of attorney also, Ignacio? In the case
yes, Michael, and I agree. I couldn't agree more. Power of attorney are very important, especially elderly people, where I find them after the will having power of attorney is very, very useful, especially for husband and wife to husband. Because a lot of people, Michael, they're stuck with difficult situations. They're trying to sell. They want to do certain things, go to the bank, and sometimes they're stuck. So I think it's important for people to be aware how important is that, and give it to somebody of your trusted loved ones.
Yeah, we like the powers of attorney, the reciprocal ones between the married couple. If someone's a risk of Alzheimer or someone's just been diagnosed, but it's a long-lasting illness but the person's still got consent to issue powers of attorney to each other is a good idea to avoid being in a situation where later on you need to sell the property and can't because the person's already lost consent. Because the incapacitation procedure through the courts in Spain to get the judge to name somebody to sign for you is very, very complicated unless you've granted the power of attorney to your spouse in advance while you still have consent. Okay, Matthew, I think we've covered everything. We've been accused by some clients that our videos are too long, so we're keeping it short this time, straight to the point.
That's very good, Michael. Thank you for inviting me, and see you next time.
Ignacio, can you just give your website, please, if anyone needs to contact you in the region?
For those who are in the Costa Blanca and Valencia regions, they could go, the English quick version will be alicanteLawyers.es, and that gives you and sends you to the link of pellicerheredia.com. Okay, we've got offices throughout the Costa, and happy to discuss if you have any issues here. But Michael couldn't explain it better. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Ignacio. Well, I'm Michael Davies. Our firm is Davies, Abogado, Solicitors and Barristers. We operate in Andalusia. We're in Marbella, Almeria, and Mojacar. And you can contact us by visiting our website, probably the easiest first port of call, and that's daviessolicitors.com. Thank you for watching. Ignacio, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
For helping me out. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.